Greetings, Swamiji. I have seen many videos of your lectures on YouTube, and they have helped me very much in my spiritual journey. As I have been raised as a Muslim, I know Islam very well. In the Quran, Prophet Muhammad has said that he is the best and last messenger of Allah. Buddha, Shankaracharya, Sri Ramakrishna, all of them are enlightened. So what's the difference between them and the Prophet? Why has God given such a statement in the Quran? Please, Swamiji, I will be really grateful if you can answer my question.
All right, so this is a question from an Islamic perspective, where it says that the Prophet Muhammad is the last of the prophets. It's called the seal of the prophets. So there are no more prophets after the Prophet Muhammad. Now, what does that mean? A direct answer first, then we'll explore a little more. A direct answer here is, I actually met a gentleman who is very well versed in the Quran and is a great devotee of Sri Ramakrishna, and in fact he's a monk of our order. He's a Muslim from Iraq. So he became a monk of our order and a great devotee of Sri Ramakrishna. So I asked him, how do you reconcile your devotion to Sri Ramakrishna with what the Quran says, that the Prophet Muhammad is the last prophet? And his answer was, that statement means the last of the Abrahamic prophets. The last of the Abrahamic prophets. So that was his answer. That does not mean that Sri Ramakrishna is not an avatar or other incarnations cannot come afterwards. They can come. But that particular lineage of prophets, the final one is Prophet Muhammad. So that's the meaning. Now, later on I saw that's exactly the interpretation of the Quran itself. The Quran itself explains Adam was the first and Muhammad is the last. So the Abrahamic prophets comes to an end, that a particular lineage comes to an end. Now you will say that's an interpretation. Yes, that's an interpretation. You have to find your own interpretation. The best way of interpreting is first of all trying to interpret within the text itself. So the text says, the Quran says this, and what else does the Quran say? And by which you can understand this statement. The Quran says Prophet Muhammad is the last prophet, and then it says Adam was the first, Muhammad is the last. You put two and two together and say, okay, in the Abrahamic religions, the Prophet Muhammad is the last of that kind of teacher, of prophet. So this is the answer. A little more general, let's step back and take a more synoptic view. In every religion, since ancient times, there have been extraordinary persons. You see, some religions like Hinduism and Christianity, they accept incarnation. Now, I'm not going to draw fine distinctions between the avatar concept in mainstream Hinduism and the incarnation of God concept in Christianity. There are many, many theological differences. Here we are taking the big picture, the wide-angle view of everything. So some religions say that God incarnates, that avatar. In Hinduism, many, many times. The 10 avatars of Vishnu, but not just 10 avatars. There are many, many avatars, endless avatars. Sri Krishna takes Arjuna to this vast and ancient tree, and he says, look, it's a berry tree, blackberries. And so he asks Arjuna, look, what do you see? At first it seems to be these bunches of blackberries hanging in the tree. He says, look closely. And Arjuna says, they are all Krishnas. Every little berry is a Krishna. There are thousands and thousands of Krishnas. What it means are there asankhe avatara. That means innumerable avatars in the past, and they will come there are many, many more to come in the future. And in every cycle of creation, this is the Hindu view. In Christianity also, the incarnation of God is accepted. That Jesus is not just a rabbi, is just not another prophet, is actually the Son of God. And he says, I and my Father are one, in the sense of the incarnation. The Word made flesh. But then Islam does not at all accept that God can ever be incarnated. Judaism does not accept God can be incarnated. There can be a Messiah, but it's not literally God who comes. In Buddhism, you don't have a God at all. There's no question of the incarnation of God. But The point is, in all these religions, there are special and unique personalities. That's the most general form of the question we can find. In Islam, Prophet Muhammad is regarded as a human being. Though a prophet, is a messenger of Allah, is a human being. Well, certainly not an incarnation of God. And yet, even in Islam, in the most orthodox Islam, you will find the Prophet Muhammad is regarded as a uniquely perfect human being, but uniquely perfect, specially commissioned by the Lord. So not just like everybody else. So there is a uniqueness about the prophets. The prophets of Judaism, there is a uniqueness about them. They were not only very devout, just every devout Jew is not a prophet. They were uniquely inspired by God. So whether it is the avatar of Hinduism or the incarnation in Christianity or the prophets of the other Abrahamic religions or the Buddha concept in Buddhism, is a human being, but a very unique human being. Everybody can ultimately become a Buddha. Actually, depending on the Hinayana, the Theravada and the Mahayana, in the Theravada, ultimately everybody can become enlightened, achieve Bodhi, enlightenment, and Nirvana, freedom. That's called Arhat, the enlightened. In the Mahayana, that's only on the way. Ultimately, everybody is a Bodhisattva, who is like a Buddha in a seed form. And ultimately, in the long run, everybody can actually become a Buddha. So there can be many Buddhas, but the Buddha is unique. So this is the point I'm trying to make. There are unique personalities, avatars, prophets, great masters or Buddhas in every religion. There must be. These are the founders of religion, the great spiritual leaders of humanity. The rest of us, all others, we can aspire and we should aspire to become enlightened. So the language that he has used is that Ramakrishna and Buddha, they were enlightened beings. They were also enlightened beings. No, enlightened beings, all of us can be, and we should be. We should try to become enlightened. God realization is the goal of human life, everybody's goal. But avatars, everybody cannot be. Everybody cannot be a prophet, nor should we aspire to be. That would be madness. All right. Now, as I said, the textual interpretation is that the last prophet and the seal of the prophets is Prophet Muhammad in the Abrahamic line. That's one way of looking at it. There are other ways. I'll give you some options of looking at it and see what appeals to you. That after each such unique advent, when a prophet comes or an avatar comes or the Buddha comes, there is generally a circle of imitators immediately afterwards. And that happens. And that happens a lot in India too. Avatar is rare, but in India there's a profusion of avatars. So some of them may be genuinely spiritual people whose devotees want them to be avatars. I want my guru to be an avatar. Maybe the guru never claimed that, but the devotees. Some are not at all genuine, some might be fraudulent. So to prevent that, a clear message has been given that this is the last prophet. And those will come afterwards. They may be very pious people, very spiritual people, mystics, but don't regard them as prophets. So that might be one interpretation. In Christianity, for example, Jesus says, none comes to God except through me. Comes to the Father except through the Son. So what does that mean? In a narrow way, it's interpreted as only through Jesus and in no other way. But you can actually, if you look at it carefully, it could just mean Jesus as identified with Brahman, with the ultimate reality, as God. So none comes to enlightenment, none comes to salvation, none comes to freedom except through God. No, by no worldly means. By no other means, except through God. That is true. Or in a very practical, narrow sense. You see, when Jesus is teaching, when the Prophet Muhammad is teaching to the narrow circle of devotees in those days, 1400 years ago for the Prophet Muhammad, 2000 years ago, more than 2000 years ago for Jesus, in that area, in that period of time in history and that conjunction of time and space, there is no other genuine teacher. There is none like that, and they know very well who they are. So that's expressed as only here, only through this. Sri Krishna says the same thing in the Bhagavad Gita. And today, in late 19th century, Sri Ramakrishna, if you look very carefully, he says the same thing. He says, go where you will, but you will find no genuine religion except what is here. What does it mean? In this conjunction of time and space, at this time, the most powerful, the easiest access to God is through the current avatar or the incarnation. That's what it means. Okay.